everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Poor Choices Dadcast. This is going to air, well, you'll find out on the day of, but December 26th. Happy Boxing Day to everyone. I hope you had a good Christmas, although they don't have Boxing Day in the States, right?
No, December 26th for us is nurse your hangover / return all your Christmas presents day.
So return Boxing Day.
Not officially. Yeah, a reverse Boxing Day.
Oh my gosh.
That's not the official holiday, but yeah. Merry
Happy
Christmas,
Nurse
everybody.
Your Hangover Day / Return Your Gifts Day. I'm Extra Girl, this is Tugs. And of course we have the lovely dad, Odin, here. Thank you so much, Odin, for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. When you reached out, I was very excited to be able to talk with y'all, and it's kind of crazy and surreal to be like, oh, that's right, I am a dad. Because even though it's like
one, two.
I know, two. We have two. I have one that's almost 3 months old, and then I have one that just turned 3 years old. So it's just insane.
Already?
Your boy, by the way, baby Thor, which I mean, toddler Thor probably.
Yes.
Toddler Thor. We have to change it now. Oh my god. Like, why am I old?
I've been like trying to figure out, like, do I change it from Baby Thor because he's always been known as Baby Thor? You know, do I change it because he really is just full-fledged toddler? You know, and it's funny, you know, for anyone wondering, when he has appeared more recently on Friday Night Sites, he has not been listening to the conversations that have been going on. In fact, you'll notice he's looking this way because I have got 2 screens, and so he comes in, he's like, I want to see the excavator and the dump truck. I'm like, you got it, bud. And so literally there's he's obsessed with like construction equipment. So it's just a video of an excavator working.
And he's just loving it.
And he's just like thumbing his mouth like, this is the best thing ever.
That's what he's doing. Oh, that's so sweet. Because I wonder what he's watching.
Trust me, yeah, he is not listening to the conversations.
He's just seeing everybody's hands doing this.
It's like, Dad, what's all the people doing down the screen there?
Yeah, the most I get is, oh, what's that? I'm like, oh, there's just Daddy's friends. Don't worry about what's on the screen. Just stay over here.
Oh my goodness.
I want to talk to Daddy's friends. No.
Hey, did you see the Az's costume at all when he was Ahsoka?
Yes.
Oh, what?
I was there because I was there at the very beginning. Oh wait, did you see it, Tugs?
No.
Az was Ahsoka. He,
oh god,
painted himself orange, and I just want to hear his reaction, Baby Thor's reaction to just
I know, right?
Just a man just sweating his makeup off and have to reapply it. So.
Now, had he dressed up like Leia, he actually probably been like, look, it's Leia. Because
he knows.
Oh, he has watched this kid. I tell you, he watched his first full-length film when he was maybe a year and a half years old. Because he was just, he was very much drawn to it. And we got about like the first time we ever watched it, he got about 45 minutes to an hour into it before he looked away. He was so entranced, like from the very moment the score hit, he was just like thumb in his mouth, just staring at the screen. And it took 45 minutes or so before he finally started to like look around and get distracted. He has seen the original trilogy now. I can't even count the number of times. It's countless times now. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Wow. That is impressive.
Kind of like father, like son.
Yes. I'm very excited.
I think that's a testament of a good film, just in general. When you can captivate the audience of an audience that's not supposed to be captivated. So like, if you're not into thriller movies, but if you put on, I'm just throwing this out there, if you put on Murder on the Orient Express, it's a bad example, but it's the first one that comes to mind, and somebody that is not into thriller movies is like, oh, well, what happened on the Orient Express? Then that you're like, oh, okay, that's a great movie. So that's, the kids that little not being able to have that attention span and being able to sit there, that's a testament of a good movie. Film.
And it just shows the power, George. Yeah, it's just the power of the score too, and I think a lot of modern films just don't really have those great iconic scores anymore because he's been drawn to films like that. He goes through different phases. So he's been obsessed with Up, for instance.
Oh, I love Up.
He loves Up. He loves Russell. He loves talking about, what's Russell doing? It's like, oh, wait. It's so funny because when he's playing with his trains, because he likes to play with his little Brio tracks now. He's gotten really big into his Brio tracks now. And he'll say tracks. And immediately his mind goes to Up. It's like, tracks. But he's talking about his train tracks, but his head is in Up. So it's like, tracks. Snipe.
Nice. Wait, what is a brio train? Because
It's wooden train set, so it's one where you can build upon over the years because they all interconnect, they all work together, and
that is
so
freaking cool.
yeah, so he's obsessed with that, and we actually just got him for Christmas. We got him a huge 54 track extension set that has a motorized
Ooh.
one.
Don't
So
listen,
Oh.
baby Thor. Don't listen to this. Oh, it'll be after Christmas. He won't know. That's fine.
yes,
Fine.
no,
Spoiler.
he doesn't
I
watch.
don't
He does
think-
not watch my content. So
I was going to say, I don't
Spoiler.
think he watches portraits.
Don't
either.
say
Out of all
present.
YouTube channels.
I don't make him sit and watch my 30-minute box office videos on Sundays because that would just be torture. So.
Maybe that's why he's so cultured, though, if he did watch
Ooh.
it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I guess let's get into this. You are married, right?
Mhm.
How long ago were you married?
So we just hit our 7-year anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
Because wait, hold on, 7 years, 6 years? No, yeah, because we were married in 2017. So we just hit our 6 years, and so we will be hitting 7 years this January. So
Okay.
yes,
And-
it's been amazing. And one of the things that I've
Aw.
always love is we had a lot of premarital counseling because I'm devout, born and raised Catholic, and so we take marriage very, very seriously. And she also was taking it seriously too. And so one of the awesome things we did was got to talk to a married couple as kind of our prep getting ready for marriage. And some people, when they hear that, they think, oh, what did y'all talk about? Because it's like an old Catholic couple and it was a part of the Catholic formation. But they talked about a lot of practical stuff, talked about finances and other things. But the thing that always stuck with us is they said, we're here to get you to the first 5 years of your marriage. Because if you can get through the first 5 years, your chances of succeeding are astronomical because the vast majority of failed marriages are within the first 5 years. And so
I think
the fact
that's actually statistically speaking correct.
yeah, absolutely. And so that's why, like, when that mindset, it helped us so much because, first years of marriage especially have a lot of, tensions that can come up and a lot of issues and, just the drama that can happen within married life because you're getting
Yeah.
used to living this with somebody and having
And
to.
that's the first time you've lived with someone
Yeah.
or lived with a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
so.
Yeah, because someone, again, as a Catholic, I never did cohabitation or anything like that. And so, like, literally within, I think it was the first couple weeks, technically, we were in the same place, but I had my apartment up until kind of like our wedding. So yeah, it was kind of a new experience for me, new experience for both of us. And it's kind of amazing to see where the journey has taken us along the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
What tools did they kind of give you, or did you find out for yourself that really worked to get to the 5 years and beyond?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
take notes. So
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I think the first
Give the whole list.
first just having that number in our mind, I think was very helpful because I think sometimes and kind of going very much hand in hand with that was the understanding that we are preparing you for the marriage, not for the wedding. Because everyone usually is preparing for the wedding, right? Not just the
Love
actual
that.
wedding itself, but the reception, right? And that's what it's all about. It's like, no, that's a part of it, but that's just the starting, right? The marriage is where all the hard work happens. The marriage is what's going to have the longest, effect over time. And so just preparing us for that too, right? Saying, okay, the wedding's going to be great. The reception's going to be great, right? Things might go crazy, but in the end, you're probably going to, have some positive experiences and memories that you'll always have with you. But then the work starts and we want to get you ready for that part. So having that mindset, I think, helped. So having the 5 years mixed also with, okay, let's focus on the marriage, less so on that. And then also just, again, something you don't think about a whole lot is just things like your finances, right? Because we had never talked about, all right, you can have one bank account, you can have two bank accounts, one credit card, you can have your own credit card. Like, what's your situation going to be like? Are y'all going to be focused on, what kind of schooling do you want to have? How many kids do you want to have? Are y'all both in agreement with that? Are you okay to compromise if you are having disagreements? And that, I think, there's so many things that would have been or could have been big issues had we gotten married and not really talked about those things. And because we already had dealt with them, by the time the issues came up, we were able to, get through them a lot more quickly, I think, than what it would have been otherwise.
That's fantastic to
Wow.
hear. This might be too personal, but stop me if it is.
Okay.
Did you already have the house or apartment that you were going to live in prior to getting married? Like, you knew what type of building you were going to be in?
So
or
Both.
How does that work?
Yeah, so both my wife and I, the lady Freya, we had pretty much an agreement that we wanted to have a house, right? That was kind of always in our mind of something that we wanted. And so when we got engaged, we were engaged for about a year, because again, and this is going to keep coming up because it's just a part of who I am, right? So as a Catholic, right, the church is very much in favor of long, at least a year for your engagement, because you want to make sure before you enter into a lifelong commitment, you want to be absolutely sure that you're on the same page with things, because it's the little things like finances, schooling, number of kids, all these other things that can ultimately sometimes make or break, marriage. And so because of that, we had a long time to not only plan for the wedding, but also to be able to do that prep for the marriage in the long run too. And so in that course of the process, we started to look for a house. And so there was a time when she actually was not in her apartment anymore. And so she was actually living, funny enough, she was living with my best friend and his wife, because luckily we all got along so well that she became best friends with my best friend's wife.
That's cute.
And so because they were friends before then, when she finally was in a position where she's going to be in this limbo, the house we ended up getting, we wanted to renovate, and so the renovations were taking longer than as all things, right? It's like, the renovation, it'll be done by the time. Nope. So we luckily were able to get, and so she lived with them for maybe even a couple of months, I think. So for that time, and then finally when it was available, she moved in, and then I started moving my stuff in, but I was still staying in my actual apartment. Yeah, exactly.
You didn't move in until after the wedding.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't officially move in until then.
How long? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's what a couple of my friends did too. One of them lived there when they bought the house when they were engaged, and I thought that was like wild. But I guess it's normal when you think about religion aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're not living together, if you're not a couple that lives together beforehand, then that makes total sense. I don't know that I would have thought about it. But how long were you guys dating before? Again, stop if it's too personal. I'm trying to get a timeline for everybody so you're engaged for the year. Mm-hmm. How long were you dating beforehand? Was that another year, another 2? Was it like 6 months down the road and and so now the engagement process
2 weeks?
Yeah, like 2 weeks, and you knew it's your engagement process. So was your like quote unquote courting process, or how did that work?
Yeah, I guess I should probably start kind of more towards the beginning. So we actually, interestingly enough, we met through online dating. So
Christian
my
Mingle?
wife and I.
Christian Mingle.
So no, it wasn't Christian Mingle. It was actually one of the worst sites you could imagine. And somehow we found each other.
Oh,
right?
No.
Obviously not Tinder. That's just
okay.
That would have been such a great story. I mean, it's gonna be a great story anyway. But that would have been.
I don't know. I mean,
because the most wholesome person on one of the most.
Can you imagine?
It's a site that I think is still around called OkCupid.
OkCupid.
And there's some. It's not the. It's gotten, I think, worse since we, obviously have been off it. But it was funny because I had been on for maybe a year and a half, because I got to a point, especially in, I had probably actually been on for a few years, because in college, I was getting to my junior, senior year of college, like getting towards the end, and I was living in New York City for where I was in college, and I just could not, there weren't anyone on campus that I really connected with. And so I started to be like, all right, let's just try this online dating thing. Who knows what will happen? Because some of my friends back home had tried it. And so I figured, why not? And so then after college, I'd kind of let go by the wayside because I moved back home for a time. And so I didn't really feel like it was needed, because I knew a lot more people and knew where to find, different connections at church and other places. And so eventually, though, I started to keep up with it. Every now and then I get their email saying, like, here's your matches for this week. Sure. And so it was through one of those that she showed up in my email matches. And funny enough, I showed up in hers. And
a mutual interest.
Oh, yeah. And the funny thing is that both of us had saw each other, and it was her who reached out first. So she actually messaged me first.
How progressive.
I know, right? So progressive. Okay. So, and then from there, we started going back and forth. And it was just so funny because she had decided that week that she was going to give it one more week, and then she was going to delete her account.
Oh, I love this.
Until we had
our missed each other.
I know. And so because we met at that time, started going back and forth. After about a couple of weeks, we were talking back and forth. She felt comfortable to, share phone numbers. And then we started texting, and then we set up our first date as well. So we ended up dating for roughly a year before the actual engagement started. We knew within 3 months, though, and we always liked this story. It was actually her, one of her grandparents, who she's very close with. I was meeting her for the first time, and she, we were eating in this restaurant. She went off to use the restroom, and then her grandmother looks at me and says, "You love her, And I'm like, yeah, I do. And that was like the first time I'd kind of said it out loud and realized it. So
wait, you never said I love her yet at that point? Wow.
Well, so again, at that point, I just had not really, I had not really fully understood, right? Because we were taking our time with it, right? Because we obviously cared a lot for each other, but we were both looking for a long-term relationship at that point, right? We were not looking for just the, let's date and see what happens. It was we were
Sure.
Hey, we were dating for marriage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I think all people should date for marriage, because what's the point of being together if it's not for that, long-term commitment? And it sounds like you probably have set like a mental checklist, even if you don't have a checklist written out, of what you want in a woman or your partner and the qualities. So let's kind of get into it. Like, besides, of course, being of the same faith, which is very important. What other things were you kind of looking for, or like actively looking for?
So it's actually funny, because within the framework of the church, we're actually in what's called a mixed marriage. Because I'm Catholic, she's not. And
that's allowed. Hold on.
Yes.
Time out. That's allowed now. My grandparents were like ostracized.
Okay, so apparently,
so it is.
I was wrong.
So you have to go through. So you have to go through the proper channels, right? So basically, you have to receive what's called dispensation from your local bishop. And the only reason why because it sounds really harsh, but basically it's because one of the parties is Catholic. That is so that so in the church, before they bless your marriage, right, before they say this is okay, they want to say, you're staying within the church, right? You're staying within the body of Christ. We just want to make sure that you're not. And so that's the reason why it's really there. And so that, basically we met with a priest. Priest gave us some questions, and really came down to, do y'all, agree to respect one another and y'all's faith backgrounds? And of course, we were very open to that. Are you open to life and having children? Obviously, both of us were open to that. And then really the only, I guess, sacrifice, if you want to even call it that, was she had to be open, and that's the word, open, to raising our kids in the Catholic faith. And she was like, oh, absolutely. She's like, I have no problem with that whatsoever. And so, and at this point, right, both of our kids have been baptized into the Catholic Church. And so she has always, again, just been very open with that. And so, funny enough, though, we actually had to get dispensations for that process. So we're actually from different faith backgrounds, technically.
A lot of rules.
So obviously both Christian, but at the same, it's also funny because we both have, degrees in theology, but hers is from a Protestant understanding, and then mine's from a Catholic understanding. And so in the very beginning, especially within our first date, in fact, we were already talking about theological issues, because we've obviously, we've butted heads before, right? Yeah, because we have some
so
disagreements.
Wild. I don't think people really realize, and I didn't either until I, started growing up and meeting more people and like hearing, people's religious backgrounds and different things that they do and stuff, that they could so very different from the rest of Christianity. Your Protestants, your Baptist, oh my God, your Methodist and all this stuff. Those guys, it's so different. And you don't think it is. You don't really think about it, just because it's the same God, it's the same Jesus, it's the same Mary. Like, we all believe the same things, but there is just such a strictness to it that it almost feels like two completely different religions. It's a wild time. I'm so glad that worked out for you. I was so nervous. She's like, gotta convert.
Yeah. Like, luckily, that is not a part of that process. Obviously, there's that openness and the the prayers, of course, because it would be, obviously, perfect world would be great for us to be exactly of the same faith mindset. Oh, that'd be great, right? But at the same time, right, the most important thing is not only just our relationship, but especially at this point, it's our kids. And I think trying to be as best as we can, because we're flawed, we're humans, try to be the best example as we possibly can of Christ in their lives. And so I think that has been something especially that has really helped. We still obviously clash because there are those ideological, theological differences. But luckily, because we had all that time preparing, and also because early on we were already talking about that back and forth, we are comfortable to be able to have those conversations.
That's very cool because, I've always had the thought that interfaith marriages, they're very difficult. And I mean, even though it's kind of similar, but it's still very different. And I've heard of, like, of course, Islam and Christian, and that it just never works like when it's that vastly different. So it's cool to hear there are like success stories of different faiths coming together. And I think the fact that you guys were open about it on the first date,
yes,
probably really helped you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it also kind of goes back to that initial question about, the qualities. I think it's because we both were looking for similar qualities, right? We were, okay, is this a person that, one, I can spend the rest of my life with? And two, is this a person that I can raise a family with? And because those were kind of those initial thoughts, that's kind of what also colored our interactions and colored our opinions and views of each other was, okay, I see that you're doing this, and I see that you believe this. Okay, what is this going to mean in the long run, right? Because it's like, maybe I'm okay with it now, but will I be okay with it in 5, 10, 15 years? Would I be okay if my son or future daughter, right, future son, future daughter, was around this person, right? And so those were the kinds of ways that we looked at that relationship. And I think that's the best way to look at it, is not just about how I feel, right? But that's a big thing for me. And I, as a teacher, I try and also bring this into my classroom about whenever we're talking about love. It's like sometimes we think love is just all feeling and emotion, and those are important things. But if you base a marriage off of that, guess what happens to feelings and emotions? Change.
They go
up and down.
They go away.
Especially for us girls, we're a hot mess all the time.
2 years
every month.
That passion, fiery love that you feel, like it's still there, but it's just not as urgent feeling. Like you don't get those butterflies. Like you still feel the love
complacent.
Towards it.
It's like,
but I wouldn't even want to use complacent. You just not as fiery. You still have, it's a different type of fire. It's like a steady fire that you've stoked the flames to, and it's going to continue. But it's just not a big, huge anymore.
Love is definitely a verb. That's what we say.
And that's why I like to say love is a choice, right?
Yes.
And so that's why if you
choice.
enter into it with that in your mind, then when you say the vows, right, on the day of your wedding, and you say until death do us part, it's like those words got to mean something, right? Am I just saying it because it's the nice thing to say, or am I saying it because I literally mean hell or high water, no matter what crazy things happened, until my death or your death, this is my life, right?
Yeah.
And so when we take it from that perspective, we start to say, okay, these other things then are a lot more important to me than what they would have been if I wasn't thinking in that way.
Yeah. You're looking at long term, not the short, which I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age, we look at acute happiness instead of long-term happiness. And you're just like, I need to feel happy in this moment. It's not about that always, because long-term happiness takes work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of work sometimes.
Yes.
And that's even just for yourself. Then you add another person in the mix into it. And it's
I mean, because I can speak more so to in my own personal life about just the struggles that I've had with whether it be growing up my entire life, ADHD, so therapy from when I was in like kindergarten, grammar school. Those were the times I needed that, because that's what helped me build the foundation for when, by the time I got to high school, I wasn't even really needed to be on medication anymore at that point, because with my therapist, we were able to build on, okay, here are the things that you can do to better focus your mind. And it was, and that's why it drives me crazy with the things today, which is like, oh, just medicate it.
Oh,
it's
gosh,
like, no, medication's the short-term solution.
Yes.
The long-term solution is what you build up. And so, I thank God every day that my parents were always of that mindset, very open to learning more, because I've also known just from different family members that some aren't as open to like modern medicine, but also they don't like the fact that you were like, oh wait, you saw a therapist, like
It's
people,
the people.
there's that
People are scared of
stigma that's still
therapists.
there, and I'm just like, I've been going to therapist since I was a kid, and so it's like
Yeah.
just this normal thing. It's like, no, because we need to work, and if we don't
Yeah.
know how to get through these problems, whether it's ADHD, whether later in life anxiety, right? If we can't work through those things ourselves, how are we going to work through even bigger issues with another person, right? And so it takes
Yeah.
work, right? The entire thing.
Now, this is very interesting because I feel like there's a lot of kids that are diagnosed with ADHD these days. What were some of the techniques that you learned to kind of work through non-medication wise, like just out of curiosity for the parents out there?
Yeah. So when I was really young, I had a great therapist who really, I think, was instrumental. And one of the things that he did, and again, I think it's one of those things where at the time, especially, I didn't really even realize what he was doing, but he helped focus my mind. And the way that he did it was he used puppets actually. And so there was these little hand puppets of different animals, and it would just be through just play, right? Of you're pretending to be a character, and you're like, this person's explaining what they did in their day, and this person went to their job, and this person, and then at the end of that play session, it would then be they would go and write down in their imaginary journal what their day was like. And I think that actually helped me a lot because it helped me, one, realize that my mind can stay focused when I'm playing. It's like, well, if my mind can stay focused then I can make my mind focus on other things too. And I think that was a big help. And then also a big part of it is school. You got to be at the right school. Because the school that I first went to, so fun story, everyone thinks of me typically as that's Templar Odin, right? Devout person of faith, doesn't do anything bad. I got kicked out of my, yes. And I just want to be very, when I was in kindergarten.
Okay. You little devil.
You delinquent. Right?
I know. But it was because
you couldn't sit still.
Yeah, I was in kindergarten and I had ADD. And I think at that point, it had maybe not had been diagnosed yet, or it was just starting off, and they did not know how to handle it. I was in the office every single day. I know, I was in the office every day. For Grandparents' Day, I remember this. For Grandparents' Day, I got in trouble. And so they made me in the office. And so my mom came by. And so she was like, honey, we're going to go get a donut. She was like, she broke me out of the principal's office. She was like, get out of here. We're going to get a donut, okay?
I love that.
I came here to see you, and they wouldn't let me see you because they took you off the stage because you were, ADD, and they couldn't control it. But yeah, so they got a call. My parents got a call around Christmas time of that year and said, oh yeah, by the way, he doesn't need to come back.
Oh
no.
No, midway through the school year, not even a little grace for the summer to find new. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
horrible. And so thank God we found a wonderful school. That was I don't even know if it was a Catholic school. It was at least a Christian school. Not very Christian in my mind, but I found a Catholic school that was great. Took me in at least halfway through the year. And they had great teachers, and they better understood how to handle it. And so that mixed with being diagnosed properly, having the medication to help in the short term, and then also having, therapy and teachers that knew how to handle it. It was so funny because a lot of the teachers I had after that point, when my parents would mention it, they said, wait, what? Really? He has ADD? I could never have, by the time I got to middle school, the teachers couldn't even tell.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that's such a testament to how far we've fallen as therapy too.
Oh yeah.
That I would say the majority of families, they just get the meds because you don't have the therapists that take the time. They'd rather take the paycheck for 30 years instead of getting everybody out of their office.
And it's on parents too. Parents would sometimes rather take that easy way. And this is not to try to downplay or try to put down any parents who fall into this, because kids are hard, right? Kids can drive you nuts. And that's why it's amazing, because TikToks and Instagram feeds, right, are filled with these videos where it's it's the one, I find it funny, but then it also drives me crazy a little bit. It's the one where it's parents who said that they would never give their kid a tablet. And then it's and then they show a crazy child, and then they're like, now what do you have to say? And I'm like, okay, that is kind of funny the way that it's being presented, but it's also, but maybe that's a part of the problem, right? Is that when we trying to get that instant gratification, trying to get that instant fix, sometimes there isn't an instant fix.
No,
And that's a tough thing.
I don't know if you've had these types of conversations. So Lady G works with kids as well. And she said, girls are so much easier to teach than boys. A lot of kids are getting misdiagnosed, and mostly boys with ADHD. The way they learn is so different. School is made for girls. School's not made for boys. So you need to figure out a way to logic their brain into learning the thing you're trying to teach. And on top of that, expend energy, because they always have too much pent up energy. They can't sit at a desk for more than half an hour.
Wow, even us girls, especially as we got, I mean, you know, the high school years are high school years, but especially as we got older, your elementary school kids up into middle school, like none of us, we just, your hormones are going everywhere. We're supposed to sit still. We're supposed to do this. We're supposed to learn about things that, quite frankly, we don't care about. We're 12 and all this stuff. And yeah, I think that she actually got into a whole Twitter debate with somebody about it, and the way she's like, you know, we let them every 45 minutes, they go out, they pick an activity, and they burn off the energy, and then they come and sit, and she's had no problems. I'm like, and that makes so much sense, because when you, I mean, just the friends that I have kids with, or, you know, I've got one that here lives in Texas, she's almost 2, and she's in that frustrated stage where she says words and she has her own thoughts, and she can walk, but she can't walk far, so she doesn't want to sit in the stroller all day long, so she's constantly, and I feel like that so many kids just in general, they can't really, you know, as you get older, but when you're young and you're trying to sit still all day, you don't want to sit still all day, but you don't want to get in trouble. And it's just so frustrating for them. And yeah, it's just so many mixed diagnoses just everywhere. I think I agree with that one. For sure.
It's absolutely true. And one of the things as a teacher that we've learned is, you know, and I forget exactly the study that was done, but we had one of the worst things as a teacher you can ever hear the words of is what's called PD, which means professional development. And you're always just like, oh no, great. I gotta sit and listen to a guy or girl who's been out of the classroom for 10, 15 years trying to tell me how to teach the class. It's like, oh. But we finally, you know, every now and then you have a good one or one that you don't mind. And one that I liked was we actually got to hear an academic talk, and it was about these findings about how there's a lot of kids today who are diagnosed with ADHD but don't have it. And the reason why is because they do show the symptoms. So if you were to give them like a test, like the typical test that you have to test to see if someone has that type of attention span, they'll actually show up as positive. But what they've figured out is that it's cell phones. So what cell phones do, if you are using your cell phone too much, and when it comes to a teenage brain especially, it's even worse. Like it's bad enough when we do it, because I know even with ADD, can get very distracted by my phone, and I know it just makes it worse sometimes. But with kids developing minds like that, what they will do is they've done these tests to show if they take the phone away, the brain goes back to a normal state. And so they're able to tell, like, there's so many kids that have been diagnosed ADD who don't actually have it, but rather they show the symptoms of it because of their phone and social media usage. And they were able to show that when you took that away, their brain went back to pretty much a normal function, non-ADD brain.
And that's the older kids. So what is that doing to these toddlers? And again, I get it. The kid's screaming, you've tried everything, you give them the cocoa melon, I understand. But when that's all you're doing, you know, instead of engaging in whatever, I don't know, I don't have
activities
kids
with
yet,
your kids, like
activities or sitting down with them and spending time with them. Instead of doing that, that's all you're doing. Those poor little brains. No wonder everybody can't sit still.
And we still see it because we are very much about not trying to be like that, but we are also still, you know, we're still normal parents, and obviously I love movies, and he's obviously been very much drawn to it. But we had it where we made a policy basically in our house: no TV during the week. The only exception is if he's sick, because obviously, like, if your kid's sick, you know, that's one of those things where it's like they're gonna have, you know, for him, he has his thumb in his mouth. He's just cuddled
I do
up
that
next
as an
to you.
adult, okay, when I'm sick, I'm like, turn the TV on, mindless stuff,
So like that's the exception, right? When he's really sick. But it's worked out very well, right? Because he'll have times when he'd be like, I want to watch something, and it's like, no, it's Tuesday, buddy, or it's Wednesday. You can't. Not. We gotta wait for the weekend. But then it's so funny because then it'll be the weekend, and so he'll wake up and like, it's the weekend. I'm like, yeah, bud. I'll watch something. And I'm like, okay, bud, you let us know what you want to watch. Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, right. But even with then, right, I'm able to also say, okay, I'm so glad that we're limiting this because it is like a drug, right? Because even though we limit to the weekends, it's a lot of the weekend, right? If we're not doing other things, if the TV's on, his brain is just very much like, so we are very much trying to be as, on top of that as we possibly can, because even though we are limiting it to just a couple of days a week, that can still, right, have that impact. And so it is something that I think, down the road we might have to limit more, but we're hoping to get him, as he gets older, he'll be able to start doing, actual activities and sports and stuff. Yeah. And that I think will help out. But yeah, it's scary to look at, even as someone who tries to have more control and say, oh man, if I did this, if I let him do this every single day of the week, I don't know what kind of kid he would be at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a very withdrawn type of kid, in my opinion. And I'm glad to hear you say you stick by your rules. I always think of, was it Chris Gore? He's like, if you make a rule, you have to stick by it. Otherwise, they're going to walk all over you.
Oh, yeah. They will walk all over you, and they will know who the weak parent is, and they will exploit it. I say this with experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had a little bit of that, but he's still young enough to where he doesn't quite understand that he has control. We always try to redirect, right? And so if he's very much like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and we're saying this is not what we're doing right now, or this is not the rule. Sometimes if it gets to a point, we'll say, how about this? We're going to do this one thing that's really, really good for you. And if we can do this and we can have our listening ears on and stuff like that, then we can get to that. And I think, it may not be the best strategy, but I think it's a lot better than just being, okay, take it, because then it's at least we're doing something in order to almost earn the thing that they would want to be able to do.
And it's so much better too, because you'll have, and there's so many families that don't have this, which I think is such a detriment just as a whole, is you're going to have backup, right? You and your wife are going to back each other up, so when they do get to that age, because I'm telling you, as a girl, you got to watch out for the donor. They'll play the games and they'll go, well, I'm daddy's girl, I'm mommy's boy, and I can finagle her. And so, if she says no, you got to back her up. And so that, I think that's a lot of too, is like, well, just do it. There's a lot of families out there where it's one parent or the other, home with the kids all day, and I've created these rules, and then dad comes home, or vice versa, and just all that goes out the window and it's chaos. So that will help.
Oh no, absolutely. And it's teamwork. And that's the other thing too. I think that from the beginning and part of the prep that we had before entering into marriage was talking about how it needed to be teamwork. And I mentioned that I was going to be talking about this a little bit with my wife before, and she was like, make sure you talk about this concept. Ooh. And it was about, backing, just like you said, right, backing up each other, being a team. One of the things that my wife always keeps bringing up, and I think it's such an important thing, is sometimes guys can fall into this role or this mindset of, oh, we have a kid now, that's your thing. I'm here if you need some extra help, maybe, but for me, especially with baby Thor, right, with our first, I took 2 weeks off from school, and I did that because I was like, I'm going to be up with you. And so I was literally up with her every time he woke up. And even though both of us were tired, and that may not have been the best strategy for that reason, I know that it helped. And we're able now to look back in hindsight at that. And those are some of the best memories actually that we have, because we were so tired.
Delirious.
And so ended up just being, that's where I was, I think I can be funny sometimes. I don't know. And so I tried my best to kind of keep her laughing. And so one thing that we've done for a long time, and I've done this, is I create voices for your animals. Have you ever done that before?
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's a voice you have.
Stuffed animals or something?
No, well, when we were younger, it was stuffed animals, but then for dogs too. So I have voices for my dogs.
Oh, yeah, and your dogs.
And so,
can we get a preview?
So River, who's actually at my feet right now. So, oh my goodness, she is very much a personality type where it's her way or the highway, and she's just also very lazy. So, yeah, you just hate me. Yeah. Yeah, you don't care about me. You don't care about me at all. Yeah.
I'm the least favorite.
You abandoned me. You hate me. Whereas Willow is a goofball. And so she talks like this. Hi, everybody. My name is Willow.
Oh my god.
I've got long
I thought my
legs.
boyfriend was the only one that does this. He does it
Oh,
with
no.
our cats. Oh
I
my
can't tell you
God.
how many times my wife and I have had conversations through our pets.
I love that.
But that also can help sometimes, right? If it's like a topic that could be something more serious. Like, obviously, you should always let those be serious conversations. But there's some that like that in between where it could go a certain way. Where like
you're
it's
in like the aftermath of like you have a disagreement, and you have
Yeah.
that like dead air, and so you'd make
or you're
it-
making a
you'd make it
joke
funny.
about something that you kind of want to take more. Like, so for instance, if someone was supposed to take the garbage out or something like that, be like, oh mom, this smell is just destroying my nostrils. How do I get out of here? If only someone would take this trash out. Like something like that, right? Where you're just making a joke. So that extended to baby Thor and to now baby Sif. So baby Thor, funny enough, whenever you'd wrap him, anytime you swaddle a kid, right, they look like this little burrito. So he became El Burrito. So it's like, I am El Burrito. I've come here. So it started off very much like El Burrito, and then over time it like changed accents somehow. And I love Lady Sif's baby Sif's voice though, because she's a Southern belle.
Oh, I see it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
Oh no, mama,
queen.
don't wake me up. I was still sleeping. So I think that
need a
that has
diaper
helped a lot
change.
with the rough, when it's a rough night or we have to get
sessions
up late.
of Not
things like
enough sleep.
I'm too high class of a lady to have a dirty diaper.
So sorry, I spat up on your chest a little bit.
Yeah. It
I
did
love
not
that.
sit well with my tummy. Like just try to think of like the most ridiculous things, and that I think has been also a big help with us too, because then we're able to like just randomly at times just pick it. Like she'll make a face and be like, "Oh, what was that? That was too loud."
I think
Oh
having
my
fun just randomly and
Mhm.
is good. The good times keep them rolling. And
The best
Absolutely.
part will be is if she picks up the accent as she
Yeah.
gets older.
Oh
and
my
she just
God.
starts talking
Well-
like that.
Well, for Thor, it's so funny because now he's actually talking on his own, and it's
Mhm.
nothing like the voice that we
No.
have.
oh
But
no,
He's got a British accent. Where did that come from?
but we still use it sometimes. So like we'll still use this like, yes, hello, how's it going? Right. So it went from being El Burrito to hi, how's it going? Almost like a Swedish, Norwegian, or
That
it's
is
the
so
character.
funny.
It's the character from the first Frozen movie. Yoo
Mhm.
hello. It's like that voice now.
I can't think of his name. Yep.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It sounds like you guys
I feel
have a
so
fun
much better.
relationship.
I thought that my boyfriend was the only one that did that, but I feel better now. It's not
Yes.
just him.
I mean, I
It's
think
so
we're still
funny.
weird, but I think it's it's in a fun way.
What's the fun being normal? Is there
I know,
anything
right?
normal?
Boring.
It's
Nobody
boring.
wants normal.
but kind of getting to that main point is husbands, guys, we got to be more supportive. We've got to understand that it is teamwork, that we cannot just let the other person, right? We cannot just let the wife do everything. And if we can enter into it through that understanding, it's already going to improve things quite a bit. You're still going to have disagreements, of course. There's still going to be things you're going to push away on, but you got to be able to offer that support because, even if it doesn't seem like it, or even if you're like, oh, well, it's this natural motherhood, such a natural thing. It's like for some, it can come very naturally. For others, it doesn't come as naturally. And in either case, they still need support. They still need help. So
Yeah. It could be something very little, like just,
Mhm.
changing a diaper while
She did not
she's-
change a diaper for the first 2 weeks of baby Thor's life.
Oh my goodness.
And
Oh
like
my
every
goodness.
single one, I was like, "You're doing so much. I'm gonna take care of that."
This is the
So-
least I can do.
Exactly. It's like,
And the thing
You-
is, too, is like that is so helpful.
You are
Even if that is
sustaining-
all you can do. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, you are
Oh my
sustaining
God.
his life. And the least I can do is change a diaper.
I love that. I love it. And that's just something that I think not a lot of guys, whether it's malicious or not, and I don't think it is a lot of the time, but they just don't realize like it's not about like, listen, she may be able to handle it. And like, I got this, I can change the diaper, it's fine. Like, this is my job. And I know women that are like that. The fact that you just were up with her
Mhm.
and you spent that time with her, like, let's say she was like, no, I got this, it's okay. and you just spent the time with her, it's stuff like that that just means the best, the most to
I
us,
am here for
honestly.
you.
Yeah. I'm
it
here.
made it easier when, I had to go back to work. And so like literally the last few days before I went off, I was like, hey, I'm going to start to slowly, just get back into a more normal routine. And, that was something where she was like, oh, absolutely. Because you need to start to be well rested for work. And so that's why, luckily, with baby Sif, since we had done it before, we didn't need to do that nearly as much. And I think it helped dramatically that baby Sif is a much better eater. There were some issues with baby Thor. He was very finicky when it came to feeding. So she's been great with feeding though. And so it made my job a little bit less than when it was because I had to do a lot of bottle feedings, for instance, when baby Thor was younger, because he was just having some issues there. And so luckily with this one, it has not been nearly as much. And so because of that, I got to sleep in a lot more earlier on. So I only took a week off versus 2 weeks off. And it was because she didn't need it. Like at that, for Thor, she needed me that first week especially, because it was a very, very tough first week. Luckily with Sif, it was a lot easier.
And everything was a natural birth, right? No having to do a C-section or anything like that?
No C-section, yeah. So
okay.
We always like to say natural, but she was like, no, but you will give me an epidural.
Not natural with drugs.
Not that natural.
I just meant out of the canal,
Yes, out of the birth canal, yes. And it's so funny because we had a person next to us who our nurses, when they were in the, X-ray girl, you probably know this, you're talking, right, to different people. And so our nurses were talking to each other, and they were talking about the other person in the room next to us. And one of the funny things we found out was that the mother next to us was going all natural. And we at one point,
good for her.
Before things started, we started hearing this screech. This howl. It sounded like a banshee.
Oh no.
And it was a good 30 seconds of screaming, and then it was dawn. And we were just like, I hope she's okay.
Oh my God.
Was it just like a curtain between you, or was she in a different room?
She was in a different room, luckily.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
But yeah, still, the fact that we could hear it, my wife was like, I already know I'm doing an epidural, but now I'm even more confident that's
I'm even more convinced.
I don't want to feel anything from the waist down. So.
Exactly.
I mean, kudos to women who actually do it literally au natural, but
that's my goal.
Okay.
I'm gonna try.
It's
at
actually
home,
doable.
At home with the water.
Oh, that okay.
That I've heard that helps, or the videos I've seen, the minimal research I've done, I've heard that actually
clean
helps.
it up. That's my problem.
You don't. That's what the nurse is for. The wet nurse, not the wet nurse. I keep doing that. The home birth lady.
The doula?
Midwife. Thank you.
Midwife.
Every time.
Midwife,
I do that every time. Midwife. That's her job. And then the ambulance hangs out outside your house just in case.
Just in case. I don't know. My first will be at a hospital, just in case. I think any just in case moments. I don't need to be scared. And then if everything goes right, no, I'll have a home birth the next one.
Next one.
Yeah.
You're just like, baby.
I hope so. It'd be great.
Because there's a lot of stuff that can, because that's my wife's same way. She understands why anyone would want to try it, but then she's also like, please don't, please have something available because, just because of something bleeding, and you'd rather be at a hospital with something like that happen.
Breached or
yes,
I don't know.
I have a family member, one of my in-laws, had an issue where she had to have a C-section, and then she also had this situation where there was a lot of bleeding, and it got very scary for a good 30 minutes. And I was like, thank God she was here and not, and obviously again, I would hope that in her case, she knew that there was going to be complications before, not to that extent, but that there would be some potential for some, higher risk for some. So my hope is that, anyone who is thinking about doing that, heeds the words of, okay, things are looking good for you to be able to do this safely. But if there's any concern, oh no, go to a hospital.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
No.
Because kudos to anyone
Better
that
be
can do
safe
that.
than sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But it's so fun seeing a baby for the first time and seeing the parents just so enamored by their child. It's so adorable. And I mean, I only see premature babies for the most part, but sometimes when you get the regular size, which are normal, but they look humongous to me
compared to everybody else.
compared to all the preemies that I've seen. And you're just like, that's a normal baby.
How did you report to that?
I don't know how that comes to a lady too, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the other thing too, is I think it's also like I'm just cut a little bit differently than others. So like I was there right next to her, and I'm the person where I was able to watch the whole thing. To see, and it's just amazing too. Like, cause some guys don't really like I don't want to look at any of that. I don't want to see any of that. For me, I'm like, that's my baby's head right there. That's amazing. I'm just like, what do you know? What do you know about that? Like, I'm like,
Odin's the dad that if a C-section had to happen and the doctor's like, don't peek around the curtain, he's like, okay.
I was gonna be like, I'm just fast. Like, I'll just be like, okay, yeah.
You just gotta put all that back in there. This is no problem.
I'll say like part of it's because my dad is actually delivers babies, and so I grew up having to hear him talk to patients and everything. So I heard all the terms, all the things. And so that's why, like, for me, it's always just been this, like, oh yeah, like, it's not a big deal to talk about that. Some guys can be very uncomfortable when women talk about certain things. For me, I'm always like, my dad's talked about that for a long time. And it's like, you know how everyone has the talk? No one's had a talk from a doctor who knows these things better than anyone else. Because it was very clinical, the talk.
Oh, I'm sure.
Very clinical. So, yeah, so I was just like, okay. None of these terms are sticking with me, but they sound somewhat familiar from what I've heard in your phone conversations.
I just love they teach it in school and all the kids are like, ew.
I know, right?
Oh my God.
It's funny because in biology in high school, I did terrible in that class, but I got an A when it came to the reproductive system. And I'm like, well, I learned something while I was at home, right?
Hey!
Your dad must be proud.
It's like, he won't follow my footsteps because he got a C in biology, but you know what? He did great on that one section.
On that one section.
He's going to be able to deliver a baby on the bus just in case. That's all that matters.
Yeah, if I ever go to one of these meetups in Odin's, they'll be like, Odin!
Odin stat!
This, right?
And I'll be like, for the record, I am not qualified. I just want to make this very clear.
I don't know. Sounds like you're pretty qualified to me.
Out of everyone at the meetup, if there's no doctors, I think you're the most qualified.
And then I'll be like saying, I shouldn't have brought that up.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We'll call you, and if I'm there with Duke, we'll have Duke come help you because he's delivered quite a few. So.
Oh, that's true. Being a medic.
See, I will be there as a support because I will not be bothered by any of the, the biological components.
You got this, Mom.
Stuff, Yeah. I won't pass out because of the blood or anything. So
and everybody else at the meetup's like unconscious, and it's just Odin and Duke like, we got this.
It's like, this doesn't bother me. It's okay.
Too funny.
Oh gosh. So did you learn anything from, I guess, your parents, like speaking of your dad, about like just like dating and parenthood and kind of doing it while you're being a, new father and current father? Like what things have you drawn?
The biggest thing I think I've learned from them was sacrifice. Because when I was really young, so long before I could even remember, my dad was going through this struggle with the job. So can't go into too much of it. I hardly even understand a lot of it myself. But at one point, my dad as a doctor was making less than my mom, who was a part-time worker, working as an occupational therapist.
What?
And it was issue with corruption and things like that. But yeah, at one point, my mom was the breadwinner of the family, actually, because
as a part-timer,
as like doing that. Yeah.
Wild.
And so I think about, and very early on, at one point also they had to live apart for a time because my dad had to take I forget if it was a job or if it was residency, and he had to go to a certain, I think it was like Lafayette area, Louisiana. And my mom stayed back in New Orleans because that's, born and raised in New Orleans. And so at one point she was basically by herself kind of with, I think it was just my older sister. I don't know if my older brother was there yet, but she was basically alone because they had to. That's what they had to do. And he still would drive in pretty much every weekend. So he would work during the week, and then he would drive just for the weekend. He would drive like these, several hour drive just to be able to be there with her on the weekends. So that is something I learned from them. And I learned it myself when I was older, when Hurricane Katrina hit. I was listening to y'all's episode with Valiant Renegade from a few weeks ago. And that's another thing, too, we have in common is both of us were actually there in New Orleans when Katrina hit. And when we were, my dad is a doctor, he got to go with us initially, but then he had to go very quickly back because he had to work, in the hospital. And so there was a time when we were living in Houston, actually.
Hey.
And so we lived in Houston for an entire semester of school. And so that was a time that was tough because our dad was not there. He would drive in, same thing, just like he did for my mom back when they had the residency and those issues. He would drive in from New Orleans to Houston, and he would do it every weekend.
Wow.
And he would do it just so that he could see us, just so that I could see my mom. And I remember
That's
they
a man that
got
loves
this
his wife and
futon.
family.
Yeah, they had gotten this futon, this very uncomfortable futon that they used. Yeah, so I think about that. So that's the thing. The best lesson from them is just sacrifice and being willing to do it. Because obviously my mom sacrificed a lot because she had to raise the kids mostly.
Yeah.
And there were times she had to do it alone even. And I think when I was younger, I may have had moments of, disconnect from my dad because he was working so much. Because there did come a time when eventually he started making, the amount that he should have. And he was not the one dropping us off usually. Like maybe as a day a week, he would drop us off at school. Most of the time, it'd be mom picking us up, dropping us off, making dinner. And so usually we kind of defaulted to that. He would, when he was there, he would ask us certain things. We'd say, no, mom's going to take care of it. Or like, no, mom can do it. And it wasn't meant to be malicious. It's just because that's what we were used to. But as I've gotten older, it's like, oh, I didn't realize just how much he sacrificed to support his family and to be there for us when he was. Which is why I think that, one of the things that he tried to do to really find time with us is he would take vacation time to bring us on road trips. So we'd go camping. So every summer we would go to Colorado actually and go on a camping trip. And that was the big thing we did with him every year since we didn't get to see him a lot when he was working.
That's really sweet because I feel like, people these days, we're very selfish. I'm saying generally, not maybe us specifically, but, we want a lot of happiness, and self-happiness is spending money, doing these activities for yourself. And when you have a kid, you see these videos of people saying, my life hasn't changed much since I have had a kid. And I'm thinking, how is that possible?
And it's not.
No.
It's not possible.
Right? Maybe if you had enough money to have a wet nurse and what are they called? Not
sitter?
maids. A sitter,
Yeah.
babysitter, or live-in sitter.
A nanny.
A nanny. Yeah. Then maybe, but even then, your life does change drastically. And the amount of attention a child needs, the word that you use, sacrifice, is integral in that. And it doesn't feel like people these days want to sacrifice. And it's rather unfortunate because, the next generation will bring more innovation, hopefully, take care of us when we're old.
God help us.
Yeah. That would be great.
Yay!
I'm scared for my life.
No.
Fingers crossed.
I'm scared.
It's just those things are hard to instill in kids. And you eventually learned it. You probably didn't understand it when you were a kid. You probably were like, why is dad leaving all the time? I want him to stay. This sucks. But then you realized, he was doing it to make sure that we had money. And the fact that he came back on the weekends at all, that's amazing.
Impressive. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that was one, I wish I'd realized it more because that was, when Katrina hit, that was when I was going into my junior year of high school. So in retrospect, in hindsight, I wish I had noticed it more then. But again, I was still high schooler. And so high schoolers in general, now teaching them, it's like they don't understand it. They just,
no.
A lot of that stuff can kind of go over their heads very easily and went over my head very easily too. But I think you're right. I think that even though we don't want to admit it, we can be very selfish with certain things in life.
Yeah.
And I know that I felt that way sometimes too, because I know even more recently I've said, "Oh man, I don't never have time for myself," and then I have to quickly catch my brain saying, "Duh, you want to have kids, and you're happy that you have kids, and that's one of the costs and one of the things that happens when you have kids is that you don't have time to yourself as much as you used to. You don't get to see as many movies as you wanted to." See, and it reminds me also of Friday Night Tights, right? It's like you don't get to stay on Friday Night Tights the entire
for
time,
18
right?
hours.
Because you gotta go help pick up.
I know. Remember when they were like 8 hours long?
Oh gosh, the beginning, yeah. I was like, I can't do it.
I'm so glad that that's fixed. I was like, I don't know how anybody I don't know how you guys do it. I get tired sometimes after our 2 hours, and I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
That was really scary how long it was before. That's what she said. And how late it was too.
Oh my gosh.
Because you're Central Time, right, Odin?
And I'm actually Eastern Time.
Oh, you're Eastern.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm Central.
it would start at like 6 p.m. around there, and then go to like 11 midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even, and then poor
It
Az.
was 6 to 8, I
struggles.
think. 6 to 8 hours, I feel, were some of those streams.
Mm-hmm.
At least.
Oh yeah, and then Az, absolutely. It was like this
I
guy.
can see why he's mad.
I stand with Az.
It's like, it didn't take very long for it's like, yeah, the whole sun going down thing, yeah, totally legit. Because the best though was when he would try to like, strengthen it out a little bit, and then he would literally just be at the microphone like this,
Falling
like just
asleep.
passed out. Yeah.
Fell asleep. Like, okay.
And then the chat's like, I
Rupert.
think Az fell asleep.
Oh no.
I really wish he snored. It would have been so fun. Oh my gosh. So yeah, it's like all these little things that you don't think you're gonna have to sacrifice, you end up having to for your kids. And I mean, that's a big sacrifice your dad did. Going somewhere to work that's apart from the family, and knowing that hopefully it will benefit you all in the end. Yeah, we don't typically do things like this these days, but I've seen not that crazy, at least. Maybe if you're in the army, when they are military, that's the most drastic that we would see deployments. Whatnot.
I can only think of like one time where it's there's just no equivalent. It's not the exact same. But I remember that my wife and I had gone on a trip. I think it was actually before we had moved to Tennessee, and we were checking it out. Like we were like kind of looking at things and how things were, and we were looking maybe at houses. And there was an issue that came up where she started to feel really, really sick, and it was like 4 p.m. and she started to say, I just feel like I have to go home now. Like she was just like, I'm just not feeling really well. I'm very anxious about things, and I feel like I have to go home now. And I was like, honey, if I leave now, I can get us home by maybe 1 a.m. But if you want me to do that, you just say the word. And she was like, please do. And so I drove like 6-7 hours from Tennessee to Louisiana. And
hard on
I don't know.
your
I actually
back.
don't even know how I did it, because I did it because this was when I didn't have headphones to put on my own music with. So I did this without silence.
Oh
and
my
I still
gosh.
don't know how. I still have no idea how I did it, because I could still, even in my mind, like I know I was like focused on the road. I remember the lights in front of me, it being dark and everything, but I did it. I got us home by 12:30 a.m. And I just like, and I think like going back to that, I think I was not running on any like just thought process at that point. To me, it was more of like this instinctual thing that just took over. Like my wife needs me to do this, and I need to step up right now. And somehow, some way, I was able to do it. But I think that might be the thing that sometimes we go through. I'm wondering if that's what kind of my dad experienced too, is just, those long drives that can be tough, but he did them because it was not something he wanted to do. It's something that he had to do. And I think that's that sensation of I have to do this. And when you have family, when you get married, when you have kids, that happens a lot more often, right? Because when you're younger, when you're single, you want to do things. There's things that would be nice to do, but when you're married and with kids, there are a lot more things that happen. You're like, no, I don't have a choice here. I have to do this thing. And I think that kind of flips a switch in the mind that makes us do things or can do things that we normally can't.
It's for the next generation, for the genes to, get them ready to take care of their own. And that's why it makes me so, I don't know what word I'd use. Upset sad for when you see those TikToks, those people who do them. You know, you get married all of a sudden and you're like, I'm a housemaid, baby, I'm fat.
Oh
all those
yeah.
things. You know what I'm talking about, right? They put the ring on and they're imagining their life. Or I showed Tugs last week, the Dinks, dual income, no kids.
Oh yeah, I saw that was making the rounds recently too.
Yeah, I was
I
like, what
like
the
to
heck
be
is a dink?
I'm a proud dinkwad, okay? Dual income, no kids with
your
a dog.
dinks and your sinks.
And it's like they see all this happiness and joy, and I'm like, to be honest, all I see is just give it 10 years and see where you are, because I just don't. Maybe you will be happy, maybe you will be, and I hope and pray that you are happy genuinely. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't think you will be. I think that you might actually, if you're not divorced, then you might be going through some issues, because it's not to say that like, oh yeah, you have to have kids right away and all these other things, but if that's where your mindset is, to me, that's a coping mechanism of like, this is normal, right? This is good. This is good. Look at all this good stuff.
It's a way to get recognition from other people to say that your life is good, and that's validation for them. And as soon as you need to seek outside validation that's not from yourself, it's over, right?
Yeah.
That's an excellent insight, because that's our entire culture right now, right?
Oh,
It's all about validation. It's all about likes and clicks. And I that's why there was a time, and X-Ray Girl, you might remember this, where I was like a 3-month spread where I got off social media. Because I was like, I have to get off. It's literally not healthy for me to be on right now, because I'd gotten so entrenched in it. And I am so thankful, because it allowed me, when I did come back, to be able to come back a lot more balanced, and to be able to handle it like I wasn't able to handle it before. Because it's an addiction. It is a drug. And it is something that if you're not careful, and we don't oftentimes like to admit that, right? When we think of addiction, it's like, it's not alcohol, it's not, drugs. It's like, yeah, but it can still be just as addicting as a lot of those things. And even more harmful, because you can say things that you end up realizing, oh, I can never take that back. And oh, wait, jobs can look at that now. And oh, now I've ruined my entire life because of the presence that I've made online.
Yeah. How often do you use your cell phone or computer around your kids, especially with this outlook?
Oh man, so this is something where I need work, right? And this is something that any parent needs to recognize the faults that they have. And one of the faults that I have is I'm on my phone more often than I want to be, especially it's more so on weekends. But when it's not the weekend, if it's us, picking him up from school and playing with him after school, it's really not there. But on weekends, it becomes a lot more prominent. And it's one of those things where I make an excuse in my mind, because it's like, oh, great, we're going to watch this movie for the 100th time. We're going to watch this video for the 50th time. And it's like,
only
okay.
so much you can see a Frozen or whatever.
Exactly. So I think it's that coping mechanism that we can fall into sometimes of, I just need to, or we think we need to do something. So sometimes I'll act like, and maybe I even will start off being like, okay, there is something I need to work on, so let me do that. And then, of course, it's a cell phone, so you get distracted by other things. So I become more aware of that, being like, okay, I really shouldn't be, doing this, because then that's what I'm teaching to him. Because right now he doesn't have really the ability to look at the TV and then look back at me. But one day he will. And if every time he looks at me, I'm down here, that's what he's going to learn. And that's something I need to work on in my life. So yeah, that's like a big fault of something that I know that I do need to start, working on better, especially in those moments where I know I try to make excuses, but it's just, again, it should stay away. My hope is that when we get to a certain point when Sif's a little bit older, because that's also a tricky part too, is they're on different schedules, and so then that kind of creates more chaos too, that we can try to dedicate no phone time, right? So that way we as parents are already doing that, so then we don't ever have to worry about that when they get old enough.
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult things that I've pondered about myself. And I've seen it with certain kids where their parents are always on their phone, so they try to get the parents' attention, and they just get their own phone to distract them, and it's just a sad cycle.
Or they can't get the attention, and so they do something like knock the dog bowl over, or and then they get the parents' attention, and you're like,
and that's something I try to stay as aware of as I can, right? Because if I'm ever on my phone, and it doesn't happen often, thank goodness, but if it ever does, where he's trying to get my attention, like, Daddy, I immediately realize, I'm like, you are absolutely right, buddy. I'm sorry. And then I just put it away. and then I try to make it clear that's like, this is not important. You are what's important. In those moments where that does happen, where he kind of, again, this is where children become such a blessing because they can remind you of some of the problems that you have, right? Like it was so great. He actually taught me, he didn't teach me this because I'd already taught him, but it's great when they give you the lessons that you gave them back. So whenever we drive, when I drive him like to or from school, he usually has a stuffed animal with him, or he has like a little toy car. He loves his cars and trucks. And there's one that if you twist it a certain way, the back of it, because it's like an 18-wheeler, so the back of it will come off. And it's tricky for a 3-year-old to get it back on. And so he'll always be like, oh no. And it's like, what's up, buddy? It came apart. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. I can fix it. And it was like, okay. And so so this one time I tried reaching back for, he's like, no, daddy, you're driving. We got to wait for red light. And I'm like, you know what, buddy? You are absolutely right, because I've told you that before when you weren't as understanding. And so I was just like, yes, this is what I want him to. Oh my God. Like when there's a red light, daddy can reach back and fix it and give it back.
It's wild how smart they are, even that little. It's wild.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely wild.
Because things are so black and white for them. Like you tell them this is the rule, they follow the rule. If they will, and I hate this. I remember being a kid. They will try to see if they can bend the rules or break the rules. And then depending on if you not discipline them like this, but like if you step your foot down and say no, or if you allow them, then they'll know, okay, I can break them down this way, or no, parents won't let me. I know that's a stiff boundary now.
Yeah.
So,
we have not, with them being, 3 years, it's at the point where like discipline is a part of it, but it's also, he's still not old enough really for him to understand it. So that's a constant battle, because today in the modern age of parenting, there's this big push for positive reinforcement, right? I understand that you're having big feelings right now, and it's okay
but also
to have those feelings. And like internally, I'm like, I know that I should be talking, because he just doesn't understand. He would not understand, but I'm also like, he may not understand negative reinforcement, but he's also not understanding this positive reinforcement either. So it's like internally, I'm like, I'm saying it this way, but you're not getting this either. And I don't know why I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's so weird because we had a working police dog in the house when growing up in my house. And so my dad's very much like, he could train anything animal wise. But he goes, when my stepsister started having babies, he's like, watch how similar. And he goes, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but watch how similar kids up to a certain age, obviously, but like that first 3, 4, well, he goes, they are puppies. And you have to kind of treat them as such in certain aspects. If your dog is chewing on the thing and you yell and you know, and the dog doesn't listen to you, what do you do on the dog? You bonk it on the nose, or you put it in a cage or whatever. He goes, don't put your kids in a cage, obviously. But, you kind of have to take them in that sort of way. And I was like, what are you talking about? No way. And he was 100. I was like, these are like, we're in a house full of 2-legged puppies running around here. This is crazy.
But they have brains and they're so much smarter. Right? It's like, I love my dogs, but
you have this weird balance where it's like, the dog is still gonna, he'll be, but the puppy will come back over and still like you if you bonk it on the nose. If you do that to your kid, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? It's like this weird balance.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because there was a time when I had to raise my voice to baby Thor, and it was more recently, and it was because obviously the dogs, and so you are used to raising your voice and not even thinking twice about it. And so I raised my, and he kind of got upset. And then when my wife went over to talk to him and ask him about it, he was like, it's like, Daddy talked to me like River and Willow. Ooh. And I was just like immediately my heart broke, because I'm just like, oh no, like, because he knows that I yell at River and Willow when they don't listen, and I just raise my voice like I typically do to them, and he just didn't understand. He's like, but I'm not River and Willow, and I don't get this, and so that's why, it's that balance of trying to be like, okay,
you're like, well,
gotta have some discipline, but also gotta be more aware of that. Yeah, that's why
it's hard being a parent today, the modern parent, so to speak. There's so many gadgets to do everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, the stroller. Apparently, there's like so many different types of strollers. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And that's just it. There's strollers that become a seat in the car. What? Anyways.
Yeah.
These
No,
are
that's
things
what-
You
my parents
have
never
your
had.
running strollers, and you have your
Mhm.
regular strollers, and you have like your hiking strollers, and you have the ones that they banned at Disney, which thank God it was too big and bulky for anything in life. And then you have the ones that have, some of them have GPS and they like track your steps.
GPS.
Oh no.
Why?
Just put an air tag in it, okay? You're fine.
It's for those athlete parents who are always running around or everything. It's like, gotta get my
I mean,
workout
I would not
in.
mind one of those running strollers because they
Yeah.
have like the better tires anyway. And so like if you have a street that's got a lot of like dirt roads or
Bumpy.
something that where you walk, like that's better. That way you don't have to worry about, popping
Yeah.
a tire or something.
That's
But
like my wife was very passionate about like there was a specific kind of stroller, a specific kind of car seat. And so we actually had one of those initially. It was one where it started off and because actually baby Thor is in one of these car seats where it grows up with them. So
I love
there's
those.
one that starts, it's like from a week or from newborn all the way up until like a few months. And then you get another one that is a few months or 6 months until they're like 4 or 5, like when you can turn it around and, everything like that. So it's
Wow.
really cool. But one we just got, which we weren't initially thinking of, is it's one that actually has a little push bar that's actually at a toddler's level. And we picked this up because one of baby Thor's friends had a younger sibling. And it was so cute because every day we would see him and he would be pushing his little sibling.
Oh, that's such a great
And
idea.
And so immediately I'm like, we need to get that because now he's going to be old enough to push around his baby sister. And since she starts up there in like January, because she'll go into the little, infant class, and then he's going to be going up. He'll finally be entering into preschool. So I think it's crazy to think
Oh
he's
my
about a
God.
year or so away from like pre-K kindergarten.
That
area.
is
It's like,
insane.
like, oh my goodness, like, because it's like the last step is the preschool here that we're at. And so, but yeah, I'm just excited to see him, because he'll be so excited to push and be responsible.
It's
He
so
loves being
funny
responsible.
seeing kids try to be parents. That there's especially little girls. There's this inherent need for them to be like, I need a baby too.
Yeah, the doll. Yeah.
Yup. And they get the doll, little baby stroller. I don't know what is up with that. I definitely had that too.
I did too. And then my little sister and I fought for like 3 years straight. It was a good time.
I think it's just
Dang,
kids
sister.
actually, it's both because they love mimicking. They just love
yes.
mimicking. Like, for instance, baby Thor and my wife made dinner. And so he wanted to help. He wanted to be a part of it. But after they had made it and we were eating, he must not have been feeling too well because he didn't really want to eat the food that he had made. But then he went to his own because we have this little mini kitchen that's his kitchen that he can have like this imaginary play at. And he started cooking. He's like, no, I'm going to cook for you. I'm going to cook for mom and dad. He's like, yeah, I got some sausages here. Okay. And I got sausages.
Like the plastic ones that you
a
cut
little
in
plastic
half one.
sausage. So it was sausage, watermelon, lemon, and like all kinds.
Oh.
And he put on a plate. He put it at our spots. And it was just like, and it was so funny because he would use a lot of the same expressions that we would use, like being like, be careful. It's really hot. It's too hot. And it's just so funny to see the words and expressions that they'll repeat,
They
That's
will
so
learn everything. That
Mhm.
I've learned to not because I have a couple nieces and nephews to react when I say the bad words, which is also why you see me never saying bad words. That's where I've been conditioned to not.
Yes.
But the less you react, the better. I don't
Oh,
know.
yes.
Oh yeah. That
I'm
goes
luck-
for anything too. Gosh.
Oh yeah, I'm lucky that I've been teaching now, going into this is my 9th year, which is just insane too. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've
Almost
almost
at
been
10
teaching for a decade. I know, but like part of my start in school then was, okay, I don't curse like a sailor, but I obviously had the occasional, and so I started to be a lot more self-aware about when I would speak. And so
Oh, of
then
course.
when not too long into my start of teaching, I started YouTube. And so I was like, now I have to be even more careful because I don't want a student to find any video of me swearing like a sailor either. And so I'm actually happy though, because now I've been so trained to always think about what I'm saying that I don't have to worry about it. So it's funny because it's my wife that actually has to be a little bit more on
More
guard.
careful.
Yeah, it's because she's the one more likely to curse
That's
than
so
I am.
funny.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
Now, I guess this will probably be like the last question. But seeing as you're on YouTube and your kids are so young, how are you
Oh,
going to break
yes.
into that with the kids and letting them know what you do? Or have you thought about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that seeing that baby Thor has already seen it, right? Because he's with the way the schedule works now, it works so that he usually gets home by the time I'm about to wrap up my part, at least on FNT. And so that's why the last few he's been there in my lap watching, his excavators and dump trucks and stuff. So I think because of that, he knows that I have an office. He knows he loves playing with a soundboard because it changes colors and stuff. So I think because of that, he's always going to likely just know, but he's not going to understand it. So I think once he finally understands it, that's going to be the fun conversation because he's already in the why phase. Right, where it's like, why? And it's just like, so I like,
because I said so.
It's like, well, Daddy, does work on YouTube and he talks about movies and box office. The amount of questions I imagine, just well, why? Well, why don't you talk about this or why want to start a channel? I'm sure there's going to be another thing.
Oh, why don't you make Coco Melon videos?
I'm proud to
you
say,
talking about Coco Melon?
He never went down the Coco Melon.
Really?
We got through, so there's a couple songs, right? So The Wheels on the Bus was one from them. There was, I think they did a version of Baby Shark too, maybe, but it was Super Simple Songs that he got into.
Okay.
And Super Simple Songs is great, actually. We enjoy those. They're terrible, but they're also a lot better than Coco Melon. So we're very happy.
I like kids shows, so I probably would be that annoying parent.
Oh, kids shows. Then I have to mention the greatest kid show that's ever been created, which is Bluey, and he loves Bluey.
I've heard of Bluey.
Oh,
I think the
Bluey.
last Dadcast, I was told to watch Bluey.
You need to. It's a good show of its own. It's a show where every time, like, it's the weekend, and we're like, you can watch something. One of the first things that I always suggest is, you want to watch Bluey? And most times now he just says no, and I'm like, but it's the one show I'm really like, I want to watch it.
That's okay. The Daily Wire is going to come out with their kids show, so just put that one on.
Yeah, no, right?
That's so funny. Coco Melon's actually pretty cute. I've only caught a couple of things coming out of my friend's daughter's little tablet thing that she has, but it seems okay.
Yeah, we like Super Simple Songs because we've actually even looked into like their philosophy when they make their content. It's more, not necessarily it's more educationally focused, but the way it's edited and the way it's cut is big. Because a lot of these shows on YouTube are very fast, quick cut, lots of things going on. Yeah. Super Simple Songs, their mindset is we want to keep things, literally as the title says, very, very simple.
Oh, I like that.
And so because of that, it's something where we don't mind it as much. We start minding it after a while because you can only hear, certain songs so many times. And that's the other fun thing about being a parent is that you'll have random songs, kids songs pop into your head. So there's a whole series of peekaboo songs. For instance, with these little animated cats doing like peekaboo, peekaboo. And there's a Thanksgiving one where instead of saying I love you, it's thank you. So
that's funny.
But it's great because then he'll randomly start singing songs too.
Oh, so cute.
Like, let's go for a drive in my yellow car. And it's like, oh man,
they can't remember the words, and he's like, la la la.
Oh, that's the best part too, when he makes up his own words. When he makes up his own lyrics to songs. There was one where it was like Down by the Bay. Down by the bay, where do wild mans grow? But he'll be like, have you ever seen a shark? Da 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 da. Down by the bay, and then he'll sing it again, and then he'll just repeat it, saying, "Have you ever seen a shark?"
That's
down
amazing.
Yeah,
that is amazing. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, him singing is the best. Oh, are those puppies?
Yes, they're puppies. But
I heard about the cone of shame one had to wear.
Yeah, she is not having an easy time with the cone.
What happened? Well, I missed this story.
Got an eye ulcer.
Ooh, ouch.
Okay. Go down.
It's all fun and games until one's got to wear the cone of shame.
Yeah.
There you go. She's gotten a little water.
My dogs have had ear issues from time to time, and so we've got this. It's like one you can keep on using, and it's Velcro.
And
yeah, this one's Velcro too, but she is so distraught by the cone.
The drama.
Like, she doesn't know what to do. She can't even drink water, so I think we have to cut this a little bit. so that she can peek her snout out. Anyways, but yeah, she looks the poor thing. But yeah, they were crying earlier, so I think she was having a hard time coming down the stairs.
Oh,
So I had to go grab her. Yeah, I'm sure
that's one of the
maybe-
fun things too, is seeing them try to navigate and the amount of times they'll like run to a door because they're like, I
Oh my
can't
god,
fit
it's
through.
so ridiculous. So yeah, sorry for running out on that last little segment, but
That's okay.
thank you, Odin, so much for hanging out with us. This was great. It was actually so fun talking to you because we never get to do this.
I know.
No, we never get to do this.
No, but also like on Friday
She's
nights,
gotta be
like
quiet.
yeah, you've only got 10 words, and I'm the kind of person where I hate speaking over people anyway, and so I'm like, okay, I'll just wait for my moment, and then I'll just keep waiting and just keep waiting.
Oh yeah,
Just
no,
keep
with those
waiting,
guys, I
just
can't.
keep waiting.
Here's another Azran incoming, okay, and then
You gotta like yell over everybody. I'm
I know.
never loud enough to yell over the eyes. Whatever.
It is a tough crowd to work with, so to speak.
But it's so much fun, That's why it's like, why do I do this? Why do I keep on coming back? Whether it's just my own channel, whether it's FNT, and now of course having family, kids. It's just because it's so much fun. It's a great outlet, right?
It's your
not just
passion too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's something that's, I always like to say, my job is teaching, but this is so much fun, and I'm going to keep on doing it for as long as it's fun. And so far I'm still having a blast with it. So
That's all that matters.
Just
really.
freaking awesome.
Mhm.
So yeah, thank you very much. Odin, where can people find you?
You can find me at OMB Reviews on Twitter. It's probably or X is the most prominent social media platform I use. And then all the main video channels, YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble. I just started more recently, last few months, to use a great movie review site called Criticless, which is a lot of fun. It's like this very retro themed movie review site. And luckily it's not another social media. It's literally people passionate about movies, and so it's so much fun to actually fill out a review. I'm always like, I want to watch another movie so I can put another review up on that site instead. But I'm at OMB Reviews over there as well.
Love
Wonderful.
it.
Yeah.
What does the MB mean, Odin?
So
movie?
so people still dead name me.
Movies blog. Odin's movie blog.
People still dead name me occasionally. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, because it used to be Odin's movie blog, and I always felt it was hard to say that, and I just never. Over time, I'm like, blog is kind of outdated. So then I decided to rebrand a couple of years ago to OMB Reviews. But I still have people that will,
Say
call me Otis Movie Blog. And
I remember the movie blog days.
Cool. You can find Tugs and I, everything in the description. I hope everyone had a good Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
When
I
you
hope
see this,
everybody.
that's
That's right,
so
because
weird.
this is gonna air we're in the future. I know
We're in the
everybody had a
future.
good Christmas. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
And we'll actually be in the second day of Christmas. Remember, the 12 days of Christmas. Christmas is not just on the 25th. So
That's fair.
all the way up
We're on
until
second
January
day.
6th, the Feast of the Epiphany.
On
We
the
got
first
Christmas.
January 6th.
Yeah! Oh no!
Oh no.
Oh no!
Everyone has their own January 6th moment.
We all have our own January 6th in our lives every
I
night.
always forget the 12 days of Christmas starts at there. I always forget.
I know,
I
right?
thought it was before. Anyways,
No, it's
clearly I
after.
don't know
On
anything.
ABC Family or the old AMC Family Freeform, it does. But
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, I hope you had a Christmas. Any of the super chats or messages that we got and comments, we're gonna send any questions to Odin and we'll review them on our Sip and Chill on the Wednesday, and let you guys know those answers as well if you have anything for Odin. And thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. And
thank you, Odin.
And thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
all right, bye everyone.